We got some good information coming out of Token2049 here. This is Brad Garlinghouse speaking on a number of topics. I'm going to stop and give you my context when I think it's appropriate. Let's go ahead and get this information.
And he's really just doubling down yet again on his reluctance perhaps to engage with the crypto community. We know that he's very bearish on the asset class in general. How do you deal with that when you're getting the same sort of response all the time from the SEC?
Look, I'll just start by saying I think it's super frustrating. You see markets like we have here in Singapore, certainly even what we're seeing in Hong Kong, the UK, Dubai, where the governments are partnering with the industry, and you're seeing leadership, you're providing clear rules, and you're seeing growth. And frankly, that's why Ripple is hiring there. 80% of our hiring this year will be outside the United States. You know, my thoughts, I haven't watched the testimony from yesterday yet.
Ripple's just one blockchain company, right? Think about the hundreds of others that have left the US, right? And how much hiring they're doing not inside of the US. How much money is this going to cost the US? Not just in technology and advancement and placement of the world, but actual dollars at the end of the day, right? How much tax revenue? I bet you it gets into the trillions of dollars eventually here, right? That's how much money the US is going to basically kiss away, blow away, because we don't have people in power that can foresee that this is really where the future is heading. And we need to adopt this. We need to make smart legislation that works globally with our partners. And if that is happening behind the scenes, it's happening awfully slowly. And other jurisdictions are taking a quicker role, and they're swooping up some of this talent.
I've read some of the coverage, and I guess my observation is one of the definitions of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and thinking you're going to get a different outcome. Gary Gensler's a hammer and everything looks like a nail. You know, just saying people need to register does not mean that what the law says is that these are securities. In fact, what we now have seen, at least in the Ripple case, is the judge in our case very clearly, succinctly said XRP is not a security, period.
I want to pick up on that because, yeah, for people that aren't aware, so your native token XRP, the SEC had said that it was going against the securities law. The US court ruled in your favor. The SEC has now indicated that it could end up appealing that decision. So what was your reaction when that news came through?
Well, on one hand, it's frustrating. You know, you have a government that has unlimited resources to keep fighting a fight they've already lost, but there's no recourse. And so, you know, for Ripple, we've obviously spent well over $100 million already defending this case. And we are very optimistic. You know, the judge has already said very clearly XRP is not security. What they have asked permission from the courts to appeal isn't actually whether or not XRP is a security. That is still clear. It's more nuanced about whether or not in certain circumstances, if there's a transaction, it would be an investment contract. So I don't know what the court will rule about whether or not they're even allowed to appeal right now. But I remain very optimistic because I think as you go up the appellate court system in the United States, you actually get more conservative. And that, I think, bodes well. And at the end of the day, I said this a long time ago, the facts are on our side and the law is on our side. And we'll continue to prevail in court because of that.
I'm interested when it comes to, because you just mentioned that the amount of hiring that you're doing, 80% of it is going to be outside of the US over the course of this year. When it comes to who is going to be the next crypto hub or define themselves as the global crypto hub, do you think that the door is permanently shut on the US being able to do that?
That is a spicy question. That is a very good question from this young lady. Let's hear what Brad has to say.
I wouldn't say it's permanently shut. It's definitely it's definitely a tough spot, you know.
Okay, so we've all seen Indiana Jones, or we've gone on the ride where the big boulder is kind of coming down and it's right about to fall on you. Like, Indiana Jones is the United States, and the boulder is adoption, and the rest of the world gonna roll us on over, right? The U.S. will come around eventually. They have to, right? They see the writings on the wall, but it's just taking so long. And a lot of us have been in this space longer than I have. You've been waiting longer, and I gotta show you mad respect. I know that there's like some people that are in the space like a month, and they're all, man, this should have happened last week, and it's like, slow your roll, young man or young lady. You just now gotten into it. Jump in the slow lane, open up a book, start a podcast. You're going to be here for a while, right? It's going to take some time.
The U.S. is still the largest economy in the world at 22% of global GDP. And so we will have a presidential election. There will be a change, or maybe there'll be a change. I don't know if Biden's definitely running. I don't comment on those things. But I think there'll be some shift as you see new administrations come in. I think eventually Congress will be frankly, called to act. And I think the fact that the SEC continues to lose in court, there's another decision recently around a grayscale ETF conversion. Yeah. And look, the judges are using really harsh language about the SEC. In the grayscale case, the judge's ruling, there's an appellate court, a unanimous 3-judge panel saying that the SEC was being arbitrary and capricious. These are pretty harsh words for a government agency.
So
if you can't hear it in the background, you got Ice Baby going on, and like I had the Walkman on my hip when I was a kid. I had this cassette. I would just slap it in, rewind it, play, rewind it, play. Man, I can't tell you how many times I've listened to this song. Didn't mean to interrupt the video, but it just takes me back.
Your battle with the SEC, is this something that you think you would like to see reaching the Supreme Court, for instance?
Look, I would like closure, and I'd like to not have it, ongoing. Yep. I'm very optimistic. If the SEC wants to push this to Supreme Court, that'll be even a more final verdict that what Gary Gensler believes is not what the law says.
When it comes down to your profitability, because you're facing issues with regulators in the US, we've seen really thin trading volumes, very low liquidity in the space. How does that affect your profitability as a business?
Look, there's no question when crypto is going through its boom cycles that's a better thing for the whole industry. But Ripple I've been in the company 8.5 years, and every time we've gone through what are often called crypto winters, Ripple has grown. We're in a very strong position with a very strong balance sheet. As you mentioned earlier, we closed one acquisition earlier in the year. We have another pending acquisition right now. We're continuing to play offense in a whole bunch of different ways, and we're growing the business. We're growing our customers. We're growing our product suite. We believe that our customers are coming to us really seeking for us to be the infrastructure provider around blockchain and crypto technologies. And we started with payments.
Infrastructure provider. That's what Ripple wants to be, right? That's what they're known as now, an infrastructure provider. I've talked about on this channel that I can see Ripple becoming a financial market utility, which is called an FMU. That's what the DTCC is. That basically it is so necessary for the US to have this technology up and running that it is in vital importance to not only national security, but the movement of money across the globe. I think Ripple could become that level of important. I've seen it on enough documents from the World Economic Forum, just regular banks, your cities and your whatnots, right? Or HSBC, Wells Fargo, right? So they've all tested the technology, right? In some way, through some partner or some sandbox somewhere, they've tested the technology and they know how it works, and they know it works well, they know it works fast, and Ripple's there trying to lay the groundwork for the entire globe to say, hey, we've built out the global system now, here it is, it interoperates with other layer ones, the EVM, right, Ethereum virtual machine, right, go use it. And it really is on to countries, how quickly they want to start using that, but that's where they are, right? Ripple's at 99 to 95% of the FX market, right, globally. Once that hits 100 and they can cover the 100% global the FX market, they'll be the first company to have achieved something like that outside of Swift, right? Technically, right? Then at that point, wouldn't they be in a position where they could become as powerful as Swift could? These are questions that I'm thinking in my head, right? Because Swift still doesn't have an answer for instant settlement. They have Swift GPI, which is a great messaging service, great new enhanced ISO messaging service. Fantastic. Still doesn't solve instant.
Now we're in custody. We'll continue to expand beyond that.
When it comes to that acquisition that's pending, that's Fortress Trust,
yes.
And it's a crypto custodian. Overnight, we understood that the CEO of Fortress Trust said that hackers had taken some money. I understand that Ripple has made those customers whole. But do you think that, firstly, all of the issues around the space have been ironed out, or they're being ironed out in terms of the vulnerability for security, and has enough trust really been regained by users of these products to spark some sort of movement back into the space in a meaningful way?
Yeah, I think it's an important thing to talk about. This particular compromise was about an end user compromise, a tool that certain customers were using to access their crypto got compromised. And frankly, that was through, as I understand it, kind of a spear phishing attack, which frankly, it affects crypto, it affects traditional banking, it affects securities. It's super frustrating when those things happen, and I think the whole industry needs to continue. I mean, the whole industry, not just crypto. I mean, the financial services industry, because if the end users' accounts and credentials are compromised, there's always going to be risk, whether it's crypto or something else. But look, to your macro point in this, Ripple felt it was important to build trust with Fortress Trust, and we made those customers whole. That business has really done well, and I think are doing a great job of serving their customers, and we're glad to be able to support it and bring it into the Ripple fold.
On the regulatory front, because we have seen a lot of progress in other jurisdictions outside of the US, across Europe, the UK, Middle East, here in Asia, some of those frameworks are quite narrow in the way that they look at crypto. Do you think that that also can be a challenge in the sense that, yes, you do have regulatory clarity, but sometimes the regulations are quite strict.
Yeah.
And so it's also difficult to operate in those sorts of environments as well.
That is not something that keeps me up at night. You know, Ripple received here in Singapore an in-principle approval for our major payments institution licensing. We've applied for licensing something called VARA in Dubai. You know, the strictness doesn't bother me. It's the lack of clarity. If I know, and I think this is true for the whole industry, not just Ripple. Ripple has always tried to lean into regulatory, engaging regulators and being a good actor. It's when it's not clear what being a good actor looks like that makes it hard. We're willing and happy to invest, even if it's strict. That's fine. What it doesn't work is, frankly, what the United States and Gary Gensler continues to propagate. Confusion masquerades as power to the SEC. The more confusion, the more power they feel they have, because they're just going to keep filing lawsuits.
Where does Ripple win here with the SEC? The former administration, the Trump administration, filed this lawsuit that they're dealing with. Took $15 million from the Ethereum Alliance. Bill Hinman did. Was that 7.5 for the free pass and $7.5 million to sue Ripple? Because Bill Hinman had left the SEC, but then he was back there those weeks leading up to the lawsuit on, I think it was December 20th or something. I might be wrong on that date, but he was there up to the final. He was the one kind of in the background pushing the lawsuit. So why isn't there an investigation into that, right? And then you have Gary Gensler, who's probably one of the worst SEC chairmen in failures in SEC history. I think the SEC really does need a clean out approach. You just need to clean out the top brass at the SEC. I'm sure all lower level people that are just doing their 9-to-5 day type stuff are great at their jobs, but there needs to be like an overhaul of the actual leadership at the SEC. We've shown over the past several years of corruption, of backdoor deals. They're really there, be there for us. They're there to protect Americans and other people from predators out in the world. And in 2020-22, when billions and billions and billions of dollars were lost, did you feel protected at all? Because I sure didn't. We're not going to get down this road to some more, but we need change. And I don't even know what change looks like at this point. I don't know. I do know if change is going to come, it's probably going to come from Republicans in Congress that will need Democratic support in Congress. Obviously, they're not going to get the full Democratic support, but they got to keep pushing. And we got to get more educated Democrats to join the fight. And we need to push this past the finish line and get adoption going in the United States, because if we don't, you're going to lose some of the greatest crypto companies on the planet. Coinbase, still a great crypto company. When it IPO'd, I didn't appreciate what the CEOs and all those guys did, selling millions of dollars in shares on top of people and basically taking the price. I didn't agree to that. I didn't agree how they handled that. But Coinbase is a good service, offering a lot of people the ability to buy certain cryptocurrencies in certain markets, right? We imagine the U.S. losing Coinbase. Imagine the U.S. losing someone like Ripple, right? That would be catastrophic. But they just can't see it yet, and that bothers me a little bit, right? You have all of these chefs in the kitchen, and nobody can whip up the menu for dinner tonight. So it does bother me. I do, as people like Brad and Chris Larson and whoever else runs a layer one big multi-billion-dollar chain speaks out and asks for more clear rules. I hope people in power stand up and listen, and we actually can get something over the finish line here. All right, guys. Hey, I won't rant and rave anymore. That was Brad Garlinghouse. That was a great update from him. If you need any help with figuring out crypto, learning about crypto, information about crypto, in the description, there's a bunch of different links, guys. Cryptonaires is there. Token Metrics is another service that I use for awesome crypto information. They have a free service right now. If you want the AI tool, it is the next level. It's the level in between, which is really cool. You can ask the AI tool what they think about it, a bunch of different things, and ask it to do some different tasks for you. A lot of great stuff down in the description, guys. That does help me support the channel and my growth as an individual. And when I'm a little bit more healthy, I can make more content and do more things for you guys and try to help you understand everything better. If you guys liked it, if you made it to the end, please let me know down in the description. I'll be catching up on comments today. I will be caught up by the end of this weekend. Thank you so much, guys. Peace.